Running back Isaac Guerendo put on a display at the Combine, becoming the second heaviest player to run a 4.33 40 or faster behind only DK Metcalf. He also jumped an impressive 41.5 inches in the vertical to further show off his explosive ability. But what does he bring to the table as a football player? After all, if you look at the list of guys running 4.3 40s, you'd be rather unimpressed with the careers for a good amount of those players. To state the obvious, Guerendo has elite high-end speed with the ability to take it the distance from anywhere on the field. But when you think of running backs as fast as Guerendo, you would generally assume that they would be characterized as elusive backs. That's not the case with Guerendo. I would classify him as an extremely fast power back. His speed is definitely a part of his game, but he's someone that is more likely to run through you than around you. And at his size, the momentum he can generate leads to a lot of high-impact collisions. His size and strength gives him a profile of a player that can carry a heavy workload that includes handling short yardage situations. When approaching the line of scrimmage, his lower body and core strength allows him to run through arm tackles from first-level defenders with ease. He's often able to run through an arm tackle at the first level while keeping enough balance and momentum to drag linebackers and defensive backs several more yards through the next level of the field. Among all Power 5 running backs with a minimum of 50 carries last season, Guerendo was 11th in yards after contact, and those yards were hard-earned. In my breakdown of Jalen Wright, who was 5th in yards after contact, I showed how a lot of his yards after contact were a result of him running through arm tackles, second and third level defenders after he used his elite burst to put those defenders in bad positions. Guerendo's yards after contact were more often due to him running through arm tackles at the first level and quite literally carrying defenders an extra few yards at the second level. He is the type of running back that will wear out a defense with his physical running style as the game goes on. Isaac was a wide receiver in high school and converted to running back in college, and due to several hamstring pulls and a Lisfranc injury, he's only had 237 carries in his career. Still, for someone that has relatively little experience at the position, he displays solid vision with room to grow with more reps. Before the snap on zone runs, he has a good understanding of fronts and where holes are likely to open up. Post-snap, he plays with a good tempo to press his landmark before continuing on his path, bouncing runs outside or hitting cutback lanes. On gap scheme runs, where he has a puller or lead blocker, he again displays great patience to let his blocks develop in front of him before making his move. He's often able to set up his blockers with subtle movements and shifts of his body weight before bursting through the hole. If he's not able to get upfield right away, when he plays with a good tempo, he is able to quickly burst and accelerate outside and capture the edge with ease. When things break down inside and he's faced with unblocked defenders or early penetration, he uses quick sidesteps to avoid obstacles and often uses his play strength to muscle through defenders to avoid lost yardage. Having said that, Guerendo isn't the most fluid player due to some stiffness, and his change of direction and lateral agility are just okay, especially once he gets his momentum going. As a result, he doesn't make guys miss often, and he doesn't have the sharpest cuts or ability to string together multiple jump cuts quickly. This play against Pitt is a good example of who he is as a player. Louisville is running a split zone play, where the offensive line is blocking inside zone to the right, with the H-back sift blocking back across the formation. Defenses will handle this concept different ways, oftentimes treating the sift block like a pulling guard and having the linebackers fall back a gap, opposite of the direction the offensive line is blocking. The defense isn't doing that here though, as they are playing quarters and the safeties are about 8 yards off the ball, ready to come downhill and fill the backside alley. Knowing this, Guerendo continues on his initial path with a good tempo, pressing to the heels of the offensive line, which in turn draws the linebacker inside and downhill and gives the backside guard and tackle the time needed to combo up to that linebacker. Louisville has a receiver on the backside reduce his split and crack block the safety responsible for filling the alley on the backside. Guerendo is able to process the front and alignment of the defense pre-snap to understand where the hole is likely to open up, and post-snap he confirms that information. He uses a good cut and breaks an arm tackle at the line of scrimmage before meeting the corner 3 yards down the field, where he is able to power through and fall forward for an additional 4 yards. He shows his vision on the play, the ability to make solid cuts when under control, and the strength to run through contact, but he doesn't have the ability to make the next guy miss once he gets his momentum going. He's not a guy that is going to cut on a dime. There are guys in this class, like Marshawn Lloyd and Tyrone Tracy, that can absolutely get more yards out of this play by sinking their hips, decelerating quickly, and using another jump cut to get the defender to dive at air. Guerendo isn't that type of player, and that's highlighted by the fact that he was 67th in missed tackles forced in the Power 5 last season. Now, Guerendo is still able to be effective due to his other tools, and he was 34th in explosive run rate, but he's not someone that's going to elude many tacklers, whether that's in the hole or in open space, especially if they are able to square him up. Let's look at another play. This run is designed to go outside, but the defender is able to out-leverage him. Guerendo isn't a back that is going to be able to stop instantly and cut upfield in these situations. Instead, he'll have to use change of pace moves to get the defender to stop their feet so that he can use his acceleration to get outside. We see that work on this play and several others in his career, but I don't think these types of runs fit his skill set best. I think Guerendo works much better on inside zone or duo runs where he can get downhill quickly, or on gap scheme runs that work inside out versus outside in. He can be successful on wide zone run concepts, and if teams give him the edge, he will win the foot race outside. But his cuts to get upfield are often rounded and take an extra second, and if the front side is completely taken away, he's not great at getting all the way to the backside cutback. I would prioritize runs that keep his shoulders facing towards the line of scrimmage more often than ones that get his momentum going towards the sideline before cutting upfield. In addition to that, Guerendo is more than just a fast power back that can carry a heavy workload. Like I mentioned earlier, he was a converted wide receiver, and he is a candidate to get a good amount of work in the passing game. He has soft hands and a good ability to catch passes outside of his frame, whether they are in front, above, below, or behind him. He does all of this while keeping his momentum and not breaking stride. There were a ton of reps on film where passes were behind him, but he was able to easily make the catch and smoothly continue upfield. These are scenarios where a lot of backs would have to stop their feet, in turn giving defenders time to catch up. You see this in his receiving numbers, as Guerendo was 10th in yards per reception, 5th in explosive rate, and 14th in missed tackles forced among the 75 backs in the Power 5 with at least 18 targets last season. Isaac was able to routinely catch the ball while at the same time loading up his legs so that he could immediately pierce upfield after the catch. He's able to use his burst to run by linebackers and safeties on the perimeter, and he shrugs off tackles from corners. He displays great concentration to make catches with defenders closing on him quickly, while at the same time preparing himself to make a move as soon as he corrals the pass. He also showed off good tracking and ball skills when he was targeted down the field on wheel routes and go balls. His route tree was fairly limited during his time in Louisville, consisting mainly of flat and swing routes, screens from the backfield, and checkdowns. He showed good spatial awareness to settle down with enough space to maneuver on those routes to the sideline, but I'm not sure he'll ever be a high-end route runner from the backfield due to his mobility and change of direction skills. Still, he's someone that can create big plays in the passing game and should definitely be involved in an offense's passing attack. Outside of the film, I did find it interesting that Guerendo was a backup to Jawar Jordan at Louisville, despite being much bigger and having a better athletic profile. His metrics were better in a number of categories, including explosive run rate, yards after contact, and missed tackle rate. Still, there were several games where Jordan outcarried Guerendo by a significant amount, including a game against NC State where Isaac didn't get a single carry. In addition to that, Guerendo will be 24 by the time the season starts, so I doubt a team is going to use a high pick on him, knowing how short the shelf life is for a running back. But the Eagles have been reluctant to give out second contracts to running backs anyway, so that might not be an issue for them. We'll have to see how that develops, as a lot of running backs in this class are older, and that's partly due to the extra COVID year and partly due to the NIL deals. It's likely to be somewhat of a trend going forward as well due to those NIL deals. Still, the Eagles met with Guerendo at the Combine, so they have shown some interest. Guerendo has a lot of traits to like as a back. He has a unique blend of size, toughness, physicality, and elite long speed, in addition to being a weapon catching the ball out of the backfield. It would be a lot of fun to watch Isaac Guerendo run behind the Eagles' offensive line.